families were picked. My family was very young. My father was an able-bodied person. My friends were all the oldest children, so they had very young parents. So their fathers were capable of work. My mother on trucks used to go with them from the morning till at night. One day, they gave us permission. I don't know. The kids should have a sing-song or something. And I love to sing. I was the first one in line to organize a little sing-song. The next day, my mother is waking me and telling me, I have permission. You're coming to work with me. And I remember telling her, but I'm so tired. Don't forget, in the labor camp, you couldn't find anything on the floor anymore, on the ground. You had to rely on soup with a piece of bread. So you were really hungry. And I said, I'm very tired, but if you knew my mother, you listened. And I went with my mother to work in the truck with all the men, only the men, and my mother and me. She said, I remember, with mir gelost, means I got permission. I don't know. If she got permission, I don't know. When we got back that night, it was deathly quiet. The only thing you heard is this horrible noise that came from in your heart. I don't know. What happened? The crying, sometimes at night, I can still hear it. What happened? You have to understand, this was already the end of 1942. The action for the children to be taken away. All the children and all the old people were taken away. When I speak to a younger group than you, I'm very honored, you're older, and they look at me, I say, you have to understand, children are the lifeblood of a nation. Old people are useless. I was the only one left in that concept, in that labor camp. The parents, it boggled the mind how they felt. And they said, you can do anything with us. We are not working. And maybe God was watching that we were taken back in the ghetto. Again, driven back in the ghetto. Because this was their first, that their children were taken away. And I have to tell you, I was born with a nature, I'm a very big optimist. Sometimes don't follow. But I realized that things were so bad that I took my Shirley Temple doll and I smacked it against the wall, my most prized possession. And life went on. I still had my mother and my father. I was still the luckiest one. Life went on, and I can stay here with you and tell you all the things that I saw. People dying, feeling so desperate. And I remember speaking especially to my father, isn't there anybody that can help us? But I have to move on fast and move ahead. And move ahead to July 1944. The Allies are coming closer. This is Lithuania, the Baltic Sea, bordering Germany and Poland. And again, one thing I have to tell you. To this day also, when people lost their family in this big action, I didn't tell you. The doors were open, and as you walked through the camp, to the ghetto, you could hear people saying the Kaddish. Kaddish means for the dead. Because everybody lost somebody else. Because everybody's family was divided. 1944, again, orders, we always have to follow orders. The ghetto is being liquidated. They're going to take us to a much better place. It's called resettlement. You can take with whatever you can carry, especially take with a suitcase. Because where we're going, you'll need to mark down your name on the suitcase, because when you come back, you will know that you'll have the suitcase. We were loaded on cattle cars. Like sardines, worse than sardines. The heat was unbelievable. No water. July 1944. I am 10 years old, a little girl. My mother and father and me. We traveled for days, I don't remember. I remember from Lithuania, we came to Poland. When the cattle cars were opened up, quite a few people didn't make it. The heat, the hunger, and the men and the women were separated. With the leftover children that were still in the ghetto from before. The men were taken to Dachau, as you heard that name, one of the first concentration camps. And the women and the leftover young people, kids, were taken to Stutthof, also a concentration camp, but not as notorious as Auschwitz. Because all those kids that were taken away from the labor camp that I missed were taken to Auschwitz. And we never heard from them again. So, when you hear the word Auschwitz, it still puts a tremor through my body. And when I was here last year, I stood up and said, aha, you didn't get me. But I don't think that that name Auschwitz will ever be forgotten. And compared to destruction, to human nature, what can do? The Jewish people weren't bad people. And when I speak to young people, I say to them, look, Hitler had so much hatred in his heart that he tried to get rid of a whole nation. It boggles the mind. Thank God he didn't succeed. And we were taken to Stutthof. I never saw my father again. You have to understand, I had my mother. My mother had me. We were a unit. We could support each other. My father had nobody. And he was a very genteel person. He spoke 5 foreign languages. He was an intellectual. He was a very nice person, but very quiet. My mother was the general. She had this fight in her heart, that life, and she had me. He had nobody. And after the war, I was told that my father didn't want to live. And he died in 1945, the same month of January, on the death march. Very ironic, and I will tell you the week that we were liberated. We were taken into Stutthof, and the first thing you see, it had a smokestack.